Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama
Rama Rama Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare
Rama
Hare Rama 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 Hare
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 Krishna
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 Krishna Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Oh, thank God.
From all the devotees all over the world, we pay our obeisances to you. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for giving us your association. Sorry that you have had trouble joining the group, but it's okay. We have just been waiting for you.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. So I'm very happy to see you all again. I'm not sure where you are. Let me see. Yeah, now I see everyone. Okay. Hare Krishna, Kirtika.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandvat Pranam, Mataji.
Oh, I see Rachel. Hey, good. Hare Krishna, Rachel. Yeah, Balaji Priya has come. Balaji Priya, can I ask you to send the link to Vishaka Priya?
Yes, Prabhu, I'll do it now.
She wanted. Okay. Let me see. Vishwadas. I think I know this face, but with another name. Did you get initiated? Yes.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So, yeah, the last time I was Wilfred, but then I took initiation from His Holiness Bhakti Damodar Maharaj.
Oh, nice. That's Wilfred. Hare Krishna. Yes, yes. Very good. Okay. All right. So we will proceed into the study of Bhagavad Gita. Even Govinda Prem is there. Ho ho. Okay.
Haribol.
Right. Okay. So
Mataji, there are 27 participants.
Good. Welcome, everyone. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamayham Dadati Swapadantikam. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, you can say, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'm going to read what we read last time, a very beautiful, a very, very beautiful verse. If you remember, we read 2 verses last time we had the class. One verse is from the introduction to the Geeta Bhushana Tika, the commentary of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu on the Bhagavad Gita. So it's a very, very beautiful verse, which is an offering of obeisances to the Bhagavad Gita. And then there is a verse which was spoken by Bhishmadev. I like very much to chant these verses before the study of Bhagavad Gita. So maybe next time what I'll do is I'll send the text to you so that you can follow. If you invite me again, I don't know.
Of course. What is your schedule like next Saturday?
A little bit unpredictable, but I think it should be more stable than today. Today was a little difficult, but next Saturday, I think it might be a little bit more stable.
Thank you, Haribol Mataji.
So I'm reading this very beautiful verse. I'll be chanting it. Ajnana niradirupeti yaya vishesham bhakti parapi bhajate pariposham uccaihi tattvam param spurati durgamamapya jasram sadgurnya bhritsvarachitam pranamami Geetam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Gita, which was spoken by the Lord, who is endowed with perfect qualities. It is a work by which the ocean of ignorance meets its complete end, by which pure bhakti becomes fully nourished to the highest degree, and by which the supreme truth, normally difficult to understand, becomes eternally manifest. Then we hear from Bhishmadev. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was speaking to Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira Maharaj. Vyavahita pritana mukham nirikshya swachana vadhat vimukhasya dosha buddha kumati maharadatma vidyayayash charararati paramasya tasya mestu. When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance, upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction. Could you hear these beautiful prayers?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, okay, good. So today I have been given the number chapter 2, verse 33.
Yes, Mataji.
Of the Bhagavad Gita. So I will chant the verse here. Ata chettvamimam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. This is the verse spoken by Krishna. Krishna is preaching to Arjuna Why is he preaching to Arjuna? Because they had been preparing for this war, and right in the beginning, Arjuna completely breaks down and he refuses to fight. Puts down his bow, his Gandiva bow, and he says, I shall, oh Govinda, I shall not fight. And then he gives a series of arguments. Arguments, the first one being compassion. How can I kill my family? All beloved people of mine, how can I cause them pain? How can I kill my family? Another argument that he gave was, you know, the goal of everyone in life is to be happy. So if I win the war, I may win a kingdom, but what is the use of a kingdom without having the people we love and our family and our friends to share with? So I will never be happy. So his second argument is enjoyment. I won't be able to enjoy. Then he has the third argument, which we will be counteracting today, which is that Arjuna is afraid. One thing is I won't be able to enjoy. And then the next thing is I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to go to hell for killing all these people. My teachers, my seniors, my family members. Who kills their family members? Only demons do that. So this argument, we were studying last time, we were in the first section that defeats the argument of compassion. That was from 11 to 30. Verses 11 to 30, Krishna is defeating the argument of compassion. Oh, you are so sad that you will be killing everyone. But don't you know, oh ignorant one, even though you call yourself a pandit, you are not, because actually no one will die in this battle. No one will die because we are not this body. We are the soul, and the soul is eternal. So the bodies may be killed, and the bodies killed means that the soul will change body and take on another body. Just as one changes one's clothes every day, the soul changes its body at the beginning of every life. At the end of life, we shed one body and then we take on another body through passing through the womb of a mother. But no one actually ever dies. There is no death from the soul. Antavanta ime deha nitya shukta sharirinaha. That which, the one who resides within the body, he never dies. So this Krishna has preached very heavily from all different kinds of angles. He has given analogies. He has explained philosophically that the soul is different from the body that we see, and the soul does not die. And because the soul does not die, nobody kills anyone and nobody is killed. So Arjuna yet is not convinced. Now he said, okay, I won't, but what about my happiness? So this argument of Arjuna, it begins in verse 31, the defeat. It's a section from 31 to 38. That's where we are today. And in this section, the argument of karma and the reactions to karma are being defeated by Krishna. So in 31 and 32, Krishna defeated the argument that I will not be able to enjoy. So Krishna said that is not true. You will enjoy because you will get a kingdom. You will get a kingdom, and by fighting a religious war, Kshatriyas, there are two destinations for them. It's either they win and they live and they get the kingdom, they get the wealth and they get to enjoy the kingdom. And if they die, nothing is lost, because fighting for a Kshatriya is a pious act. Fighting a religious war is a pious act, and the result of that is that Kshatriyas, after death, if they die, they go to the heavenly planets, which is a place where there is only enjoyment and no suffering at all. So these concepts that we are being presented here are the concepts of Varnashram Dharma. And the fact that all activities that we perform must be performed for the pleasure of the Lord, and all the activities that we perform should be regulated by Shastra. Now, this is a concept which is quite far away from the life that we live today in the modern world. The modern world means feels good, do it. In general, that's the idea. Whatever feels good means we live on the sensual platform, we live on the emotional platform. Very less people live on the intellectual platform, and hardly anyone lives on the spiritual platform. So, and we can see the result of the status of the world today, especially currently for the past few months. There's a total chaos in the world, and it's not new. It has been going on for quite a while now. Why? Because there is no goal, and there is no ruling principle. We are not this body. That is completely unknown to most of the people of this world. And even those who are religious sometimes do not have a complete understanding of this strict distinction between the spirit and the body. So, and the fact that there is a controller in this world that is denied by many people. The idea of modern civilization is that we want freedom. There was a song which was built on that. We want freedom. This is what everybody is looking for. But where to find the freedom? So far, little success. Actually, everyone is bound. Everyone is bound by the laws of nature. And how to live without the bondage of the laws of nature means that first we have to recognize there are laws, which in general scientists have acknowledged that there are laws in the universe. If you throw anything up in the air, it will automatically come down. It's a law. And you mix various chemicals, you get the same results every time because there are laws of nature. So there are laws and there are law books. The law books are the scriptures. The most, would you say, detailed scriptures are the Vedas, which the Bhagavad Gita is a part of. The Vedas have different sections as divided by Srila Vyasadeva. There are 4 Vedas. And there is one which is called the 5th Veda. The 5th Veda is made up from material which consists mostly of narrations, the Puranas and the Itihasas, histories of the universe which carry a philosophical meaning within them are called Puranas and Itihasas. The Puranas are compilations of many stories with philosophical import, and the Itihasas are compilations of usually one story at a time. And the main compilation is the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. It is, if we want to say, it's a hidden part of the Mahabharata, and it is the essential part of the Mahabharata. If you see, the Mahabharata is a story of the Pandavas, and it's a stories of fighting, political intrigues, romance, things that people are very interested in. So people will read the Mahabharata, but at a certain point in the Mahabharata, Krishna starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So of course the unfortunate people may skip the pages and continue with the stories, but if we are lucky, we read the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita reveals the knowledge. What is the knowledge? The knowledge is that there is a controller in this world, beyond this world actually, and that there are laws, and that the laws are stated in the Shastra, and that human beings are distinguished from animals by this only, that they can hear. They can hear and understand the Shastra, and they can conduct their life according to the Shastra. So in Shastra, there is the law of karma. If we act according to the Shastra and we do what the Shastra tells us to do, which means actually that there are duties in life. Oh, this word is horrible in this age. When we talk of duty, people are not very pleased, most of them. We don't want to act according to duty. Duty is boring. Duty is binding. But duty is a bound that frees. And that is not understood. If one acts according to one's duty, and that too with a sufficient amount of detachment, then there is no reaction to one's activities. This is a basic law in this world. For each and every action, there is a reaction. And this doesn't go only on the physical platform. If you slap someone in the face, obviously he will slap you back. So there are many action, and actually our whole life is made of a series of actions and reactions. So here we see Arjuna very much worried that the reaction, now he's afraid in this section here, which starts actually with 33, is afraid of sinful reactions, that if I act, he thinks that killing my kinsman on this battlefield goes against dharma, which means my duty. It's a very vast presentation in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not very simple to understand. First of all, we have to understand Varnashram. There are 4 Varnas, 4 ashramas, which are divisions within which each and every person can situate themselves in the human society according to one's nature. The ashramas are basically spiritual. They help us to attain the goal of life. It begins with brahmacharya, means the first phase of life, which lasts for about 25 years, is that we are young, we grow, we need to learn. It's a phase of learning. It's a phase of learning. Brahmacharya means one who follows the Brahman. And because what is there to learn in this life? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. We do not need to learn only computer science and all kinds of material knowledge, which is basically known in the Vedas as avidya, means ignorance, a bunch of ignorance. It's material knowledge. We need material knowledge to function practically in this world, but material knowledge is not the only knowledge, and it's not the essential knowledge. The essential knowledge is the knowledge of Brahman. In the first phase of life, for about 25 years, we are meant to learn about the truth of life. And we are meant to also learn various skills which can help us in our life ongoingly on the material platform, or can help us, give us skills to engage in the service of the Lord. but mostly we should understand what is the Brahman, the spirit, who we are. So this is 25 years of life. And in order for us to understand this kind of knowledge, which is vidya, para-vidya, the supreme knowledge, as opposed to apara-vidya, on the material knowledge, which is inferior. It's inferior, material knowledge is inferior because it brings about material results in general, and it's limited to this world. It's not complete. So spiritual knowledge is the ultimate knowledge, which explains who we are, where we came from, where we should be going, where and how to get there. So we should be studying that. And in order to have the sufficient intelligence to understand spiritual knowledge, which is the highest knowledge, we need a very sharp, intelligent, a very sharp brain. And the Vedas explained that this is attained through abstinence from sense gratification headed by sex life. So this is quite revolutionary. Prabhupada presented all this, and it's quite revolutionary in the material world where enjoyment is the pinnacle of existence. But actually, if we want to be happy, we must control the senses. And sex life is the topmost enjoyment in this world for most people. And it drains the energy. It drains a lot of energy away. And if one is engaged in sex life, there's no question of understanding spiritual knowledge. So brahmacharya is the first phase of life, 25 years of abstinence from sex life and absorption in trying to cultivate one's knowledge, both material and spiritual. And then after that, one may continue to search for the absolute, or one may, in an unmarried situation, or one may become a grihastha, a married person. Nowadays, we see the world, people sit between two chairs. They are not married, but they are not maintaining rules of purity. So that is not very favorable for spiritual life. So those who enter married life have so many duties to perform and so many duties to follow. And married life, contrarily to what is usually practiced in this world, it's not the end. There are 4 ashrams. The first one is the preparation, education, and then grihastha life is also meant to be for around 25 years, not more than that. And we see in this age that because there is no knowledge, people do not study the Shastras and nobody informs them, because most of the governments have become secular, which means they do not teach about the existence of God, the goal of life. So people have no idea, and they sit in the grihastha ashram forever, if they ever get there. They pass the age of 50, they pass the age of 60, they come to 70, and they are still living in the family, and they are still taking care of the children. Sometimes they are still engaged in business. They still have positions in the world at the age of 70 years old. Now, this is not what the Shastra says. The Shastra says, as soon as the children are grown up, meaning they reach the age of 20 to 25, as soon as the children are grown up, one must move on to the next ashram, which is the vanaprastha ashram. Vanaprastha means leaving for the forest. And that entails, it means that, number one, the responsibility of running the house is handed over. It's handed over to the next generation. The responsibility of growing the children, making money, all this is handed over to the next generation. Vanaprastha means no employment, no business, finished. And Vanaprastha also means return to abstinence from sex life. After the age of 50 or 55 or maximum 60, nowadays in the modern world, people get married at the age of 60 many times. And okay, we are not criticizing. It is a state of affair which is like that. But if for one who wants to actually achieve the goal of life, which is to leave this body and not enter another body, then one must purify the mind, and one does not engage in sex life, business, and all kinds of entertainments after the age of 50 or 60. This is the age to again study the Shastra. This is the age to again absorb oneself in thinking of the most important moment of life, which is death. Instead of trying to avoid death through technological advancement, through all kinds of medical treatments, through anything that we can imagine, instead of trying to avoid death, one should prepare for death, understanding that death is like an airport. It's a place where we go, and there is a time of departure. There's a flight coming, and we have to catch the right flight. So all this is explained very nicely. So these are the ashrams. And then there are people who graduate to yet another ashram. Not everyone graduates to that ashram, but the next ashram is called the sannyas ashram, which is an ashram where not only one works, one doesn't work just for one's own personal spiritual emancipation, but one actually works for the welfare of others. For other people's spiritual emancipation, one becomes a propagator of the knowledge of the Vedas. So that is the sannyas ashram. And similarly, there are 4 varnas, which are the Shudra Varna, the Vaishya Varna, the Kshatriya Varna, and the Brahmanical Varna, Brahmana Varna. These are the qualities of work. Everybody has different qualities. The qualities are related to the 3 modes of material nature. Sattvam, Rajas, Tamas. People who are predominantly influenced by the mode of goodness. They are knowledgeable because Sattvam Sanjayate Jnanam, from goodness, which is a state of very peaceful existence, comes knowledge. And these are the Brahmins, the people who can teach, who can understand the Shastra, teach the Shastra, help others, guide others. Such persons are very much required. And Srila Prabhupada always said that the current society, human society, has been decapitated. The Brahmins are the head of the society, they guide, and they are no longer there. And even if they are there, they are not recognized or do not have the power to advise as they used to have at certain periods of the universal history. So, and then there are the Kshatriyas, and here we see Arjuna is a Kshatriya. The Kshatriya is the administrative power. Administrative power is ruled over by the mode of passion, action. This is the action man. So Arjuna was such an action man. And the duties are different per ashrams, and the duties are different per varna. Basically, the Brahmins worship, they learn, they teach, and they do not accept any employment and so on. They live usually on alms. And the Kshatriyas, their duty is, Prabhupada said, Kshatrayate. You have been studying this. It means that they protect others from harm. They are meant to understand, to hear from the Brahmins. They have this much sattva-gun in them that allows them to understand that there is someone else who knows more than them, and therefore they have a tendency to hear from the Brahmins. And under their guidance, they rule. They rule for the benefit of the citizens. They protect the citizen. And the main protection is protection from ignorance. They make sure that people follow their Varna duties and that they follow their ashram duties, so that there is spiritual emancipation for the entire population. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada was joking that people say there is overpopulation in the world. Prabhupada said there's never overpopulation, because the earth can maintain so many more human beings and other beings than it currently has. Srila Prabhupada said, I've been traveling all over the world and I have seen so many unoccupied lands where food can be grown. So there is no overpopulation. And at the time, Srila Prabhupada said there is overpopulation. Why there is overpopulation is because people are not graduating. It's like in the school, you know. You have the 10th standard and then you have the 11th standard. So suppose the people who are studying in 11th standard, they don't perform. So if they don't perform, they don't move on to the 12th standard. And the next year, what happens is that the people from the 10th standard, they move into the 11th standard. And many of the people of the 11th standard, they again sit in the 11th standard and the class is overcrowded. So Srila Prabhupada said, this is overpopulation. Why there is overpopulation? Because people are not getting liberation. They are not going back to the spiritual world. They are not getting liberated. So they come back again and again in this world, and it just accumulates because there are so many new generations coming, and the old generations are still staying in this universe. They're not going away. So there is overpopulation like that. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya. His duty is to administer the country, to maintain order, to make sure that the Brahmins are protected and are teaching the Vedas. And his duty is also sometimes to fight for the right cause, to fight to make sure that that the society is a society that leads the citizens to elevation, spiritual elevation. So that is his duty. So Arjuna had this duty because here we see the other party that he was fighting against was Duryodhana and his brothers, many of them, about 100 of them. And even though they knew how to rule in some ways, but they were not pious. They were not having the right goal in mind. And therefore, their ruling was not beneficial for the populations. And therefore, they were actually called the burden on the earth, demoniac kings. They were actually the burden of the earth. So Krishna wanted this battle, and Arjuna was meant to fight. So fighting was his duty. Others the Vaishyas have the duties to protect the cows and to engage in trade so that the whole society is nourished, so that the food circulates and so on, and the wealth circulates and so on. And the last Varna is that of the Shudras. The Shudras are the people who have all kinds of skills, usually manual skills, and who perform so many kinds of jobs in the society. Very helpful. We can't live without them. The carpenters and the plumbers and the even all kinds of artists and so on, all kinds of skilled personalities. They perform so much work in the society. So here we have Arjuna. His duty was to fight. However, he's confusing his duty and he thinks that he should not fight his family. But Krishna has already told him, what is this family? Our eternal family is everyone, because we have the same father. We have the same father. So we are all members of the same family. And you are talking of a very, very, say, temporary family, the family that we know, which is based on our bodily relationships. That is a very temporary family. So Krishna here is explaining to Arjuna that you think that if you fight, you will incur sin. Arjuna was mixing different scriptures. And Brahmins may be excused for not fighting, it's not their duty, but Kshatriyas have to follow their duty and have to fight. So here Krishna says, if, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sin. So Arjuna was thinking, if I fight and I kill everyone, I will be sinful. And Krishna tells him, no, no, not like this. If you don't fight, you will be sinful, because sin is not in the killing. Sin is whether you are killing out of duty or you are killing out of hatred. And, when a murderer attacks someone and kills them to steal their goods, he commits a sin. But if a soldier ordered by the government for a righteous cause is sent on the battlefield and executes his duty, and in the course of executing his duty he kills, that is not a sin, because he is acting out of duty. He has a mission to accomplish. So there is a distinction here, what killing is used for. So in this sense here, it says it is your duty to protect the people, and they are being misled by Asuric rulers. So you must get rid of these rulers. So if you do not do your duty, then there will be sin for you. Because what is sin? Sin is when we act against our duty. We do not perform our duty. Then we incur reactions. So 2 reactions here if you don't fight, Krishna says. Number 1, papam avapsasi, you will incur sin. And he also says that you will give up, you will be devoid of fame. You will lose your kirti. You will lose your fame. Now this is very terrible for a Kshatriya, because a Kshatriya, infamy, for him it is said, infamy is worse than death. Because a Kshatriya, in order to rule, he has to be credible. People have to have faith in him. And to lose one's fame means that one will not be credible, and therefore people will not listen. Now, when the people do not listen to the rulers, there's chaos in the society and the ruler is finished. Ruler has to have authority. So here it said that because the idea is that, hey, Arjuna, if you don't fight, now you say that it's because you have so many good reasons not to fight. But what will the people think? They will only think that you have left the battlefield because you were a coward. You didn't want to fight because you were afraid. You were afraid, or you gave up your duty and so on. People will not praise your compassion at all. It's not expected from you. What is expected from you is to follow your duty. Now this is it's quite heavy to hear all these things. So this is this idea here that he was a very famous person. He was famous in the very you say, in many, many places on the earth. He was famous in the heavens. He had fought with demigods, including Indra, his own father. He had fought with all kinds of kings, all kinds of supernatural beings, demoniac beings, all kinds of beings, and he had always won. And he was equipped with the best of all weapons. So what would stop him from fighting? Because actually victory was sure for him. He was a good warrior and Krishna was on the same side. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that if he would quit the battlefield, he would lose all his fame, good name, and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. So this is what Krishna is trying to impress upon him here. He's trying to make him understand that sin is incurred by giving up one's duty. And the duty is not always pleasant. So like Prabhupada said, sometimes a man who is performing austerities, a yogi who is performing austerities in the Himalayas, he has to sit in the snow. It's very, very cold. There's nothing to eat, but he's performing austerities. That is his duty, the duty of the vanaprasthas, the duties of the sannyasis. And he gives another example. A woman, her duty when she's living at home is mostly to cook. She has to cook. And in the summertime, when it's very, very hot outside, 40 degrees, 45 degrees, here in India, it's one of the countries where we get very nice warmth. It's very, very nicely warm, we say. It's very nicely warm. 2 weeks ago, we went up to 48 plus in Vrindavan. Fortunately, it has come down now. So what is a woman to do when it's 45 degrees Celsius? What is she to do? Well, according to the Shastra, she has to go in the kitchen and she has to light the fire and she has to cook. And I mean, already it's hot and then she will cook. It will become so much hotter, but she doesn't give up her duty. If she gives up her duty, I mean, she doesn't feed her kids properly, she will incur sin. So duty is not always pleasant. And it's the same for all different kinds of occupations. The Brahmins also have unpleasant duties. Sometimes they have to use certain things which are made from animals, or in ancient times they used to perform sacrifices. They had to kill an animal, which usually killing is not at all something that a Brahmin will do. So there are very unpleasant duties everywhere. But the idea that Krishna is drilling to us, because he's teaching us here, that one must learn to act out of duty in order to achieve a higher purpose in life. In the beginning of human life, we are inclined to act in any whimsical ways. But acting whimsically brings negative reactions. So we are taught in the Bhagavad Gita to accept the sense of duty. This is something which is missing in the modern society. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we learn about duty, we learn about commitment, and we learn about discipline. And this is what makes a real human being, a human being of character. So this is our lesson for today. Acting out of duty will bring good results, and rejecting one's duty will take us on a dangerous path, which basically will bring us misery. Following duty will bring happiness, and it will bring ultimately a sense of detachment, which will then give birth to knowledge, and which will take us higher, higher, and higher, and higher in philosophical and spiritual understanding. And if we don't follow our duty, then we will degrade ourselves and anchor suffering. So, which is not welcome by anyone. It is very difficult to suffer. And many times when we suffer, we get bewildered. We don't understand why we are suffering. First thing is we get bewildered, so we lose the knowledge. Then we suffer, and we don't understand why. It's very dangerous. Suffering can be quite dangerous, because suffering usually, for one who is not quite enlightened, creates a rebellious mood. We rebel against authority, we rebel against the established order of the Lord. But actually there is nothing to rebel about. Suffering is a loving hand of Krishna, which is meant to once and for all make us understand that we are incompatible with matter, and we need to seek our happiness beyond this world. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Mataji, thank you very much for this enlightening class. Mataji, there are some questions. Is it okay for us to ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
But Kritika,
yes,
I
Mataji.
know I'm seeing Hemangni. Hemangni, you better wait, because I'm going to ask some question on behalf of most people.
Okay.
So Hemangni will wait, don't worry. If Prashanta is willing to wait. You know, you said 25 years of Vanapras. I mean, after 25 years, a Grihastha should step into Vanapras. Idea being there'll be sons who will take care of the parents. But these days, as you rightly mentioned, there's no responsibility, there's no knowledge, there's no discipline. Children don't even bother taking care. So then on what grounds will this Grihastha think about retiring at the age of 25? And I'm going to link another question to it. Like girls these days, they feel they have to have higher education because the men are not responsible. So then they'll be left on the lurch with no money, with children and all that. So how are you going to resolve these two? Besides, there is another burning question about animal sacrifices, which you rightly said, that the Brahmanas have to do against their wishes, but they are forced to do it, because we had a lot of debate on this animal sacrifice as against non-violence. So I've asked you all my questions, then the rest, because this is in general, everyone is interested. Haibol, over.
Okay, can you please remind me, what was the first one? The first one was about
Vanapras.
the Vanaprastha, that, yeah, how can people, yeah, that elders are not taken care nowadays by the younger ones and so on. Yes, the social order is disturbed. The social order is very disturbed in all ways. I remember my brother, I have a brother who's about, he actually left his body, he was 80 years old, when he was telling me that, you know, he saved all his life. I mean, he gave all his life very dutifully, belonged to a different generation. So very dutifully all his life while he was working, he was, you know, paying the government a certain percentage of his salary towards the what do you say, the pensions, you know, for old age pensions. So all his life he was depositing the money for old age pension and so on. But when he became old, the government couldn't pay him the promised pension because there were no young people to work and to fill up the pension, fund. So this is a great catastrophe that of our civilization. We have to acknowledge that it's not really working very well, what is going on nowadays. But not following the duty is not a solution. As soon as we come back to, as soon as we are informed, you know, that we should educate ourselves in young age, we should follow rules of austerity, we should abstain from sense gratification, we should follow immediately. Who cares whether others are not following? And when we hear that we have to move on with our life after the children are grown up, we should move on. The whole idea is faith in God, that the Lord will protect us, the Lord will arrange for us a place to stay, the Lord will arrange for some activities for us, some association for us. There is no need to be afraid. Srila Prabhupada many times said that when a woman is pregnant, as long as she's pregnant, there is no milk in her breasts. But as soon as the baby takes birth, the milk starts flowing, if the lady is healthy and normal. And Prabhupada said this is the proof that, you know, we are fed by the Lord, our feeding and everything, clothing, it's already there. It is already there. So if we give up our household at a certain age, there are certain things that we can do, that we can take, where we can take shelter and so on. So nowadays people prefer to calculate and have a fund and be like this, like that, which is also okay. The main thing is to remember Krishna. Whether we stay at home or we leave home, it doesn't really matter. What is most important in this age is to remember Krishna, is to chant his name in whatever position we may be. So if it's too difficult to leave home in this age, okay, well, stay at home, but chant Hare Krishna. So that is important to understand. We have to understand the essence, because what is the goal of leaving home at a certain age is to detach oneself so that the mind may think of the after death and may think of God. So if we chant Hare Krishna, the mind automatically will think of God. So the same result will be obtained. However, if we are fortunate and we want to make sure that we actually think of Krishna, then at a certain age we should at least go and live where there are devotees, go and live next to a temple, attend the programs in the temple much more often. Usually as a Grihastha, one goes to the temple on Sunday. Well, that's not enough to remember the Lord. So in old age, it's better to go every day, to take darshan every day, and so on. So that there are different ways to handle the last stages of life. But duty is not to be forsaken just because others are not following it. We should try our best to follow, what is best for the the success of our human life. And we must set an example for the next generations. Where will they learn? See, the children learn from their parents. So if someone retires from active life to think of God, it will go in the history of the family and it will be followed afterwards. So, yes, is that okay?
Very okay. So number 2 about girls feeling insecure, and that's why they have to go through universities and everything, because men are not taking enough responsibilities.
Yes, naturally, it's a very difficult situation. Srila Prabhupada calls it making the best use of a bad bargain. It's a bad bargain. To take birth itself is a bad bargain. You know, we should have gone back to Krishna, but we didn't make it. So we came back. And on top of it, we took birth in Kali Yuga. In this time, everything is disturbed, everything is out of order. So it's very difficult, yes. So actually, there is nothing really wrong about getting educated. The idea is always what we do with the education, and the idea is always to live in a pious way and to avoid sinful life. When one has to avoid sinful life, that is the most important. So, and Krishna consciousness, the way Srila Prabhupada preached it, he preached it on the basis of principles. So the details can be adjusted sometimes. Sometimes one has to adjust. So we understand the insecurity of the women in this age, where to find a husband who is going to actually remain married. And it's not just a question of the husband, it's both, you know, because the sense of duty is not there. I remember one time I was traveling on a train in India many years ago, and I was with a few other devotees, amongst whom maybe one or two foreigners were there. So they started a conversation with some Indian passengers, and they were talking about so many things, and I was just sometimes overhearing. And at some point, they started discussing marriage. They started discussing marriage, and the Indians they were initially they were saying, "Oh, so you people believe in free love?" They were telling the foreigners, and the foreigners were like, "Yeah, we believe in free love." And you marry the girl you love. And the foreigners were like, "Yeah, we marry the girl we love." They were boys discussing. And then one of the Indian persons, he said, "In India, we love the girl we marry." So this is a very different concept. Very different concept. So unfortunately, so we have to relearn that concept of actually dedicating oneself to the relationship, whether it is the man or the woman, both of them. Marriage is like taking sannyas. It's not something that you walk out from. It's not something that you undo. It's the sanskara. It's done. You get married, it's done. It's 20 to 25 years, sometimes 30 years, staying with the same person. And nobody ever said that the goal of marriage is to be happy. That's not written in the Shastra. The goal of marriage is to become detached, is to understand that this life is actually not the source of happiness. That to become free. The goal of married life is to become free. First of all, is to produce Krishna conscious children, and also to become free from one's attachments. So nothing wrong in one sense with the girls trying to build themselves a security, but at the same time, we should also pray, maybe, for Krishna to arrange a proper person. Or we should know that marriage is not something which can be done on the external, external match, in the sense you become attracted to someone, that's the person you want, and so on. No, it's better to understand more deeply how we will match with the person, so that there will be no divorce. divorce is terrible. It's terrible for the children. And it's also terrible for the individuals, because you invest in a relationship and then the relationship breaks. It pains, it hurts in the heart. It hurts. So, yes, it is okay. Girls can try to build themselves security and so on. But at the same time, unless they have a tendency towards renunciation, which is possible, but at the same time rare, they should try to find a person that they can get along with, and then commit themselves to stay with that person. Even the Christians understand that when they get married, it's in the best, in the good days and in the bad days, they vow to continue their relationship and to stay with each other. So unless a relationship becomes abusive, very abusive, where there is beating and there is raping and there is so many things going on, mental torture, emotional torture, it is better to stick to the marriage, because not this one. What is the chance that in the second arrangement it's going to be better? Many people who divorce once, they divorce twice also, because the fact is there is no sense of duty, so it can never work. So let the girls be educated as a, what do you say, you can call it a parachute, in case they have to jump out of a boat at some point, or jump out of a plane rather. So they can find a job, they can maintain themselves and so on. There's nothing wrong against that proper, but at the same time, there are many problems with working in the world. Mostly jobs involve sinful activities, jobs involve promiscuity between the genders, they all work together, and the laws of nature cannot be overcome. When a boy and a girl constantly spend time together, whether it's for work or this or that, there is a natural law of attraction which takes place. So the environment of work in the world is not always a very safe environment for girls. But at the same time, we understand. And the main thing is chant Hare Krishna, because that is the actual umbrella. It's not the education. The actual umbrella is chanting Hare Krishna. And if we chant, then we will be protected, even if we have to go out and work, if we have to grow children on our own. Srila Prabhupada said, to be a single mother is the most heavy burden in existence. There's nothing more heavy than being a single mother. Unfortunately, nowadays, being a single mother happens to quite a few people, to quite a few women. But even if we have to go through these things, we should follow the path of devotion. Take shelter of Krishna. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by chance, and we are suffering the reactions of whatever we have done in our previous lives. And so some people get a good marriage and some people don't get a good marriage. If you ask any astrologer, it's already written in their stars. It is there. Some people have a good marriage destiny and some people don't. So therefore the Shastra says that we should not try to maximize happiness and get rid of suffering, but we should not so much focus our energy on that. We should take whatever comes and we should build a better future. We should build a better future. So in this age, it's also good to be educated, because our duty is to preach. So if we have at least a sound understanding of things, we can preach, we can speak, we can write, we can do so many things. So there's nothing against girls' education. Even in the past, the girls, it's not that no girls were getting educated. It's not like that. The Brahmin girls, they were getting educated. They may not have been going to boarding schools because that's very dangerous, but they were educated in the village itself by family members or respectable Brahmins. The Kshatriya girls were educated? No way. They were educated. They had tutors at home and they would learn all kinds of things, including fighting. We hear Draupadi was managing 100,000 servants and she was managing the treasury of the Pandavas. Just try thinking, treasury, what that means, how much money she was handling, and very successfully. So the Kshatriya girls, they were initiated. Now, when you go down to the lower classes, then neither the men are educated nor the women are educated. In lower classes, education is more something which has to do with skills, but it's not so much intellectual. So nothing wrong with education, but at the same time, again, one should have a spiritual understanding and one should know that usually what is prescribed by the Shastra is for the good of the individuals. And if girls want to, out of fear or insecurity, escape the duties of married life, then they should know what is the next option. The next option is to dedicate their life to Krishna. One who gives up one's material duties for the sake of Krishna consciousness is not at fault, because Krishna consciousness is the highest duty. But who will do that? Mostly it's, I don't want to marry this one, but I would gladly marry another one. So it is a little difficult. So one should make the best use of a bargain. If you have the capacity, you can get educated, but also learn what is the duty and the necessity. Usually women have a psychology which requires shelter. There is a certain type of dependence in their psychology which makes it that when they have someone to depend on, they become very functional. Very functional. As we hear of Draupadi, she was super functional. So, but when women stay on their own, then either they have to have a strong Purush Bhav in their psyche, or they have to be extremely attached to God. And they have to be, that is called religious vocation. If they have a religious vocation, then they can just serve God. Prabhupada said, Krishna is ready, he's waiting. Krishna is ready, he can accept you as, he can be your husband, he can be your son, he can be your lover, he can be your friend. Krishna is ready. So, but you must understand, no marriage means no sex life, and no marriage means hardly any contact with men. So for those who can live that kind of life, then you can avoid the terrible, things which can happen in Kali Yuga due to the lack of duty. So in Krishna consciousness, it's our duty to educate both the man and the woman in how, they can live for best results. So, and the education of men is very important also because education means moral education, spiritual education, so that they can actually be responsible in society. And happiness doesn't come from sense gratification and living a free life. Happiness comes from the mode of goodness, which is generated from duty and from spirituality. So yes. So this is one answer. to your question about this dilemma. It is a dilemma in this world that we understand. Definitely it is a dilemma. The men also have a dilemma. He said, where is the good wife? Where is the good wife? When a man is good and wants a good wife, he is also in dilemma. Where is the good wife? Good wife that he understands for a man. Man has the opposite psychology of the woman. He is a dominator. He needs someone who will assist him, not somebody who is going to rebel all the time, who's going to argue all the time, who's going to know better. He doesn't need that. He needs a cooperation. So where is that? Because in this age also, the men are corrupted and the women are also corrupted. It means the nature, then the natures are corrupted. That's what means Varna Sankara. The natures are not what they're supposed to be. They're all mixed up. So one is neither a Brahmin nor a Kshatriya nor a Vaishya nor a Shudra. You see in the West, very intellectual person is driving his car to go to the job. Now, driving is a Shudra job. So one is a Brahmin and he's a Shudra also, and he's also everything. And similarly, in this age, the men sometimes don't have the characteristics of a real man, and the women sometimes don't have the characteristics of a women. The women are strong, they can be domineering. In other words, they have the qualities of man. And the men are unclear, unsure. In other words, they have the qualities of the woman. So make the best use of a bad bargain. The main thing is to marry someone who is Krishna conscious. That you should remember. Whether you're a man or a woman, if you are a devotee, marry a devotee. And then on the basis of Krishna consciousness, then something can grow. And Krishna consciousness will bring about the best in the human beings. So the bad qualities are going to go away and the good qualities are going to, develop. So Krishna consciousness is our savior, and there's no other solution. We are dysfunctional, everyone. The men are dysfunctional, the women are dysfunctional. And it's only by chanting Hare Krishna that this dysfunction can somewhat be mitigated to some extent. And because our interest shifts to Krishna consciousness, that we have a whole other area of existence that we can share. We can chant together, we can read together, we can worship together. And it's on the basis of this that grihasthas actually flourish. Because the material combination, that is, good luck.
Prashanta Prabhuji, I think you forgot that there's so many in queue waiting for questions, and you gave
Okay, I'll be brief with the next one.
Okay, I'll stop with mine because I wanted this animal non-violence, unless he's going to ask himself. Let the others get their questions in. We don't mind, it's you and your time.
Yeah,
how much time do you have?
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Then quickly, I'm asking a question. You said that there were 3 modes, Satya, Rajas, and Tamas, and mode of goodness will be Brahmins, passion, it will be Kshatriyas. Ignorance, I'm just assuming it would be Shudras and Vaishnavas. But we cannot remain in the same mode all the time. Even if we are a Brahmin or a Kshatriya, the modes keep on changing. Or even if we are a Shudra. So how do we, because our aim is to become, if we are full of passion, we should become good. If we are ignorant, then we should become passionate. That is what I understood from your talk. So how do we remain in the same mode in spite of the different ashramas that we will be going through?
Well, first thing is that the modes of nature are constantly shifting.
Yes.
According to our association. It moves by association. You associate with passion, you become passionate. You associate with goodness, you become good. You associate with ignorance, you go to sleep, or you get angry, or you become lazy. So it's by association. So the modes continuously shift, but in terms of each person, usually one is predominantly in one mode. Then it may be shifting a little bit here and there, but one is predominantly in one mode. So there are people who are predominantly passionate. They are always in action. They are always there. They are fast. They are, fruitive also. So these are the characteristics of, and then, but if you meet them early morning when they just woke up, then goodness, little bit, because the environment in the morning is in the mode of goodness. So we may be shifting from one mode to the next according to time, but there is usually a mode which is prominent, which directs our nature. And the idea is to rise to the mode of goodness. And the prescription, again, is devotional service. It is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the study of the Shastra, the worship of the Supreme Lord according to the rules and regulations. This is what will bring us to the mode of goodness. This is what Prabhupada called bhakti, and especially the Sankirtan Yagya. Prabhupada compared it to elevator, as opposed to the staircase. And when you go to big buildings, there's a staircase, and there is also an elevator. So the staircase, usually that's considered to be the Varnashram Dharma, by which suppose one is a Shudra, which means predominantly in the mode of ignorance. So by following the duty of a Shudra, this mode of ignorance will gradually be cleared, but because by following duty, one elevates oneself, it clears the inferior influences. So gradually, after many births, one day one will take birth with sufficient passion to be able to take on the duties of a Vaishya. And then after quite some birth, the ignorance will be destroyed by following the duties of a Vaishya, and one will take birth as a powerful Kshatriya, full of passion. And after quite some birth, burning the passion by following the duties of a Kshatriya, one will take birth in the mode of goodness, and one will have enough brain to actually study the Shastra and fix the mind on attaining the absolute. So we must strive for the mode of goodness by practicing the mode of goodness and by associating with the transcendence in the form of the holy name. So how do we practice the mode of goodness? We are not interested in ignorance, and we are not interested in passion. We want to rise to goodness. This means rising early in the morning, keeping oneself very clean, trying to be regulated, engaging in the activities of goodness, which are reading, studying, worshipping, and so on, associating with those who are peaceful, who are in the mode of goodness. And at the same time, one should chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because that is the main means of purification, which will destroy passion and ignorance. Okay? So we must rise to goodness. That is, what do you say, goodness and cleanliness. They are next to godliness. So that is the stepping stone. If we chant Hare Krishna in the mode of goodness, that's why it said you chant in the morning. If you chant Hare Krishna in the mode of goodness, then the result is enhanced. Whereas if you chant Hare Krishna in the mode of ignorance, means half asleep, the result is not the same. Or let's say the result may be the same, but the speed by which the result is attained is different. Okay, so chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, after some time you'll be studying. Very amazing, very amazing chapter, the secret. How by cultivating the mode of goodness, one can rise to transcendence.
Haribol Mataji, we won't keep you for long because you said 5 more minutes. I know it is late in India, and thank you very much for giving us your time. There are lots of questions, Mataji. I'm going to save them for next time for you, so that all the devotees don't feel left out. Can we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Since Mataji came and gave her valuable time in glorifying her.
You're not asking her if she can answer a few more questions.
She said 5 more minutes only.
No.
Okay. Okay, fine. The questions are there. Mataji, do you still have time?
Okay, we can take one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and
the
we'll
next
give you one more and one more.
So the next question.
Till you switch off. You came late also.
So the next question is, how do we know that we are doing our bhakti as we are always covered by the 3 modes of material nature? How it affects us? This question is from Hemangini Priya Devi Dasi Mataji.
We are performing bhakti under the order of our spiritual master. So following the order of the spiritual master, that actually defines our devotional service. So there are 4 actually types of devotional service which are described in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Devotional service tinged by the mode of ignorance, devotional service tinged by the mode of passion, devotional service tinged by the mode of goodness, and the devotional service which is transcendental. This has been illustrated by the lives and activities of Maharaj Daksha, because he was performing some activities according to the Vedas, but due to being covered by the mode of ignorance, he was very envious, angry, and so on. And we know the results. He got a goat's head. And then we see Dhruva Maharaj, who obtained the darshan of the Lord, but his goal was very fruitive. He wanted a kingdom, and that was his motivation for practicing yoga. And then we see Prithu Maharaj, who was practicing everything in the mode of goodness, acting out of duty. And finally, the last example is the example of Shiva, Lord Shiva, who instructs the prachetas in transcendental devotional service. So it is understood that when we come to Krishna consciousness, we are not transcendental completely. So we are going to act, and it's going to be mixed with the modes of nature. So we have to tolerate that, and we have to try to maximize the mode of goodness we have to practice. Practice makes perfect. So we should, in one sense, not be worried too much. We should not focus on the influence of the modes. We should focus on the tracking the influence of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. When we chant, we need to focus on the sound, on hearing the holy name, and by the association of the holy name, we will be able to conquer this influence of the modes. So there's nothing to lament about because it's natural. So one should engage in devotional service, take up direct devotional service. Many times we see people are chanting, but their main occupation is their job or something. We should try to engage in direct devotional service because that itself is situated above the modes, and it will drag us beyond our own capacity. It will engage us in a transcendental way. So we have to cultivate. That's why in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the modes are, not only the 14th, actually, so for several chapters, the modes are described so that we understand what are their symptoms and so on. And we should try to consciously get away from the symptoms of the modes. You see, the modes, we change the modes in the sense that if the modes have symptoms, for example, laziness, indolence, and sleep, they are the characteristics of ignorance. So even the positions that we put our body in, if you lie down, you'll be surprised, but within 10 minutes, or depending on the individual, you'll fall asleep because this position is governed by the mode of ignorance. So even if you are not sleepy, if you start lying down, the sleepiness will come. So naturally, you should understand that if you want to remain awake during japa, you don't lie down. You must sit. Sitting is the position of the mode of goodness. So like this way, we have to learn how to work with the modes. And this is, one of the works of devotional service, try to work with the modes. So yes, our devotional service is tinged with it, but we pray to our spiritual master, to Krishna, to please accept our service even though it is faulty. And we, with our sincerity of heart, because you remember that what it says, Bhav Grahi Janardan, that the Lord of the people, Krishna, he accepts our mood. So devotional service means that before you start doing what you're going to do, you pray. You offer yourself to Krishna so that he may use you in the service of Krishna. So Krishna, please engage me in your service. Okay. And then you start cooking or you start repairing the roof or whatever you have to do. You start working. And while you are working, sometimes, one mode will come, the other mode will come, this mode will come. And at the end of the work, then again you submit to Krishna and you beg for forgiveness for whatever mistakes have been committed due to the fact that you are still under the control of the modes, and therefore, you got angry in between and you shouted at somebody in between and all that. So the idea is be sincere. Be sincere and always try to pray to Krishna to to accept the service and overlook the defects. And Krishna will do that. Krishna is not mean. He's not a mean person who's just waiting for the moment when they're going to make a mistake. Now I got him. Krishna is not like that. He's always looking for the service. He's looking for the good. So we beg for forgiveness for our mistakes.
All right.
Haribol,
How many
Mataji.
more?
Another question my other question is that in Bhagavad Gita 4.22, Srila Prabhupada writes that a Krishna conscious devotee should be above dualities. So how should we still be concerned about doing sin and doing pious activities?
Question from?
Hemangini Priya Devi Dasi Mataji.
Oh.
Yeah, concerned about doing sins, performing sins and pious activities. Krishna consciousness is beyond sin and pious activity. It has nothing to do with that. Sin and pious activity, they are self-centered actions, whereas acting for Krishna is Krishna-centered, and because it's Krishna-centered, there are no reactions. So a devotee is, one has to be free from duality. Yes, that is true. But that is the platform of Krishna consciousness. So you learn how to act for Krishna. If you act for Krishna, there's no pious reactions, there's no sinful reactions. This is what Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. So what is this Dharman? These are all the Varnashram duties that we perform, all the mundane things that we perform. So it says, you just take shelter of me. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. And if you take shelter of me, and you act for my pleasure, you try to do what I want you to do, then I will deliver you from all sins. What he doesn't say is that he will also deliver us from all our piety and we'll have nothing left. No sinful stock and no pious stock either. The both have to be destroyed in order for us to quit this body successfully and return to Krishna. So we must act on the spiritual platform free from duality. That is the platform of devotional service. So the main thing is to distinguish devotional service from material activity, which is not always obvious for most of the people. Prabhupada said the devotees do the same things as the non-devotees, but their consciousness is different and therefore the result is different. So we have to learn that. What is Krishna consciousness? Krishna consciousness means to remember the pleasure of Krishna and to try to act for his pleasure, to try to serve him in whatever we do. But there are activities which are more directly service to Krishna, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, remembering him, hearing about him, chanting about him, serving the Archa Vigraha, praying to the Lord. All these, it's called the Navavida Bhakti. All these items, they are direct service to Krishna. So we should try to maximize those activities in our life. These activities are beyond duality. But as soon as you engage in karma, you act for making money, you act for avoidance of suffering, or then that is within the world of duality. But usually in the life of a devotee, the two are conducted simultaneously, especially as long as one has mundane duties. Then the two are conducted simultaneously. And we must practice Krishna consciousness up to the point where we will actually get taste for Krishna conscious activities, direct engagements in Krishna service. And when that taste comes for direct engagement in Krishna service, then we will naturally shy away from material engagements. And so there will be no more duality. The duality comes from identification with the material body. We identify with the material body. So automatically there is heat and there is cold, there is dryness and there is humidity, and there is all that, all factors. It's all based on the body. So progress in Krishna consciousness means that we identify as Krishna's servant instead of identifying ourselves as the enjoyer of everything we survey. So that service attitude, that is the platform beyond duality. We have to become a servant, and we serve the soul, not the body. And then there are so many people, you know, buying blankets for poor people in winter and all that. No, we want to serve the soul. So therefore we preach, we feed prasadam. If we have to feed, we feed prasadam. Very important. At your home, suppose you are living at home, you have 3 children, you know, the family is there. If you want to act on the platform of beyond duality, you must offer the food before you feed your family. So like that, we have to learn how to act on the platform of non-duality. And that is devotional service, connecting things to Krishna. It's called Yukta Vairagya. We use everything in this world, but we connect it to Krishna. Then it becomes transcendental and liberating. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Do you know it is 10:25 here, and we are going to take your leave?
Okay, we'll let you know. So you have to promise when you're coming again then, because there are questions to answer still.
Maybe we could have a question answer session next time, then they can exhaust all their questions.
Yes, but you have to give us that when you're coming. We'll book it.
Well, you said Saturdays, no? So next Saturday.
You know why Saturdays? Because our normal timing is 8 p.m., which is 10:30 on weekdays. So that's why Saturday everyone is trying to be good and be there for 6 o'clock our time. You know, there are people from India also, Rachana, so many are from India. There's Anthony Sebastian, I must thank him, he's still there. He's in Mumbai. There's Ajit who's from UK. Chaitanya Devi left, the one who was doing the kirtan. She's a far out devotee, but she's left. Madhur, there's so many devotees who are still hanging on to hear the nectar from you, you know? So
next Saturday, 6 o'clock. Mataji. Yes?
Is it? Get a yes. Everyone yes. Chorus.
6 o'clock Kenya time, so India would be 8:30, right?
Yes. Kenya time.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Mataji, next Saturday? Yes. Mataji, is that okay? Prashanta Mataji?
That's all right. I'll let you know. I mean, this is a tentative yes. This is a tentative yes, unless there is something very urgent in my schedule next Saturday that I cannot avoid. Otherwise, it's fine.
Haribol!
Okay. With that, we can chant the Maha Mantra in glorification.
Only once. Let her go. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Haribol.
Hare Bol, Hare
So thank
Bol.
you very much.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prakash has
Krishna.
been there from the beginning to the end. Prakash from Kisum.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandvat Pranam.
Dandavad.
You remember me. It's like grateful. I'm so grateful to you. Remember me. Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who joined. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mansi.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are grateful to you.
No,
Mansi Mataji shared.
So many souls who came in. I'm so happy that they thought it's worth to be in the Eldoret group. Haribol.
Haribol,
Yes.
37 participants, Mataji.
How many?
37.
Oh, okay. Now or from the beginning? No.
From the beginning. Now it is just 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All are leaving, but Ajit Prabhuji is there, Prakash Prabhuji is there, Prahlad Prabhuji is there, who asked a question in French.
Prahlad is a little boy of 16-year-old.
Yes, Prabhuji. He asked in French what the role of men in Krishna consciousness is.
Oops.
And I'll ask it for him next time.
Anyway, she'll answer next time, Prahlad, okay? I'll make sure your question is answered first. All right?
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Haribol. Okay, everyone, back to their cooking, to their eating. To
I'm here also. I'm here.
Huh? Oh yeah, Sadhana is the mother of Prahlad. Why don't you show your face?
Huh?
You show your face. You can... Anyway, it's time we are all leaving. Okay, Haribol.